Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Texas Mortgage Bankers Association's Education Webinar Series, a part of the Education and Endowment Committee, led this year by co-chairs Hannah Barton and Stephen Bertrand. I'm Stephen Bertrand, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar titled Gen Z Homebuyers, Adapting Mortgage Strategies for a New Generation. We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar using the team's Q&A. And we plan to address questions during the webinar instead of at the end. I'd like to introduce today's moderator, Mark Pfeiffer. Mark is a mortgage loan originator at CMG Financial. He started in the mortgage industry in 2003. He believes that he has one of the best teams in the business and attributes most of his success to them. Mark has been a $100 million producer before, but knows that the score resets every January. In 2023, Mark fell short of his $100 million goal, but he's dedicated to getting back to the 9-digit funding club. Mark's highest priority in life is to be a great husband to Caroline and to raise their 2 wonderful daughters. Mark works extremely hard to ensure the work-life balance is always tilted to the life side of the scale. Mark is a nerd for systems, processes, and efficiencies. He's continuously chasing excellence and looks forward to seeing his team dominate in 2024. Okay, let's get started. Mark, the presentation is all yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Stephen. Thank you for having me. You and Carol have done a fantastic job setting us up for success on this one, so I do appreciate you guys having me. I'm pleased to introduce 3 really good friends of mine. I've known all of them for a very long time and worked well with them both as partners in the industry, and then Alex as a vendor. He's fantastic. So today's topic, as you probably know, Gen Z homebuyers, adapting mortgage strategies for a new generation. So with that, we're going to introduce one of those generation, Mr. Thomas Ross. So we did confirm Thomas is a Gen Zer, so he is technically the resident expert here on the panel. Thomas and I have known each other for, I'm going to guess, about 5 years, give or take. And both, the reason why I'm excited to have both Jessica and Thomas, and I can share this honestly, they are some of the 2 people out of the, let's say 3 or 4 that I've known that just had the quickest starts in the mortgage business as far as just being on it, being great, being amazing. Thomas and I met at a happy hour long ago. He is a former soccer player. Apparently, I just learned this today in the pre-meeting. He was a semi-pro player as recent as 2022 in soccer. Grew up in Rockwall, went to University of Ozark. He did play college there. He now lives here in Dallas with Bailey, his wife. They have a chocolate lab, Rooney. And beyond that, apparently, I didn't know this either, he's a big margarita enthusiast. So we got that in common. So part of the Lynn Ross team is Miss Lynn. Miss Jessica here, she and I met, I'm going to guess 10 years ago. She's pardon the French, but she's a badass in the business as well. She does a ton of business. They both work at Origin Point. I also learned that she is an Aggie. I'm a Longhorn, but we still get along apparently, so that's good. She's got 2 kiddos with Croy and Liam, married to her husband, Ian. She's a big fan of the Aggie football. And now that UT is now in the SEC, that'll be fun for you and me. She enjoys traveling, exercising as well. And then last, but certainly not least, somebody outside the mortgage business, Mr. Alex Trevino of AMT Media. Alex and I do a lot of work together. He is amazing. I will pump his services to all those listening today if you need them, because again, he is not my competition like the other 2. But Alex is amazing. He does videography, helps folks with social media and all kinds of just video stuff. His main target market is, in fact, realtors and mortgage lenders. He's a recovering actor. This is his words, not mine. I've heard him say it many times. And I learned that he apparently was in commercials like Coca-Cola and Taco Cabana, HEB, the U.S. Army. He's a graduate of the University of Dallas. He was the high school musical kid. He played basketball and had school musical, and they were kind of like the same thing. If you've seen High School Musical, you know that. Alex has 4 kiddos. He's a big golfer. He and his lovely wife have been over to have dinner at my house. I think the world of him. And he's also very proud to be the secretary of his wine club. So with all those bios now done, one last piece. We all found out we are all former models. 2 of us were professional and got paid to do it. Thomas Ross being the most successful child model. Alex did modeling and commercials. And then Jess and I were volunteers. We kept our amateur status. Never actually got paid, but we both went to one photo shoot to help friends out. So good for us. All right, team. So getting into the important stuff of today, Gen Zs, for those that don't know, are people that are the ages of 12 to 27 years old. So it's a little creepy and weird that Thomas is the same generation as my 14-year-old girl. But there you go. So born between 1997 and 2012. So today we're going to talk about how older guys like me can connect with somebody that might be half my age, and how do we get them in the home buying industry and how we snag them early, because they are now coming up on that age where it does make sense. So Mr. Thomas, the question for all of you, all three of you, we're going to go through this. I'm going to have Alex go first, and then we'll work our way up. Since Alex is the non-industry, we'll go first with Alex. Alex, tell me this, number one question right now, just to kick things off before we get started, for the speaking to the Gen Zers that might be listening, what do you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Speaking to Gen Zers?
Speaking to the Gen Zers, so the Gen Zers listening, what do they need to know? What would they like to know that when you started your career 9-10 years ago, becoming a videographer, what would you wish you knew?
That ultimately I'm responsible for everything good and bad that happens in my business. You know, when I was that age, 23, 24, 25, 26, I could do no wrong. It was everyone else's fault, everyone else's problem when something happened to my business. And about 5 years ago, it hit me like a ton of bricks that no, it's actually all my fault. And you can just peel that off as much as you can year over year. But when you start taking responsibility for everything that happens in your business, and that could be anything, entrepreneur, small business owner, real estate, loans, whatever. But when you start taking full responsibility for everything that happens in your business, you grow as an individual and your business also grows. So for me, it's exactly that I wish I knew early enough that everything was in fact my fault.
I like that. And again, in my world, I'll tell my team, it may not be your fault, but it's your problem, right? Something may have happened that's not us. So it's your problem, your responsibility. So whether it's your fault or not, just own up to it, say you're sorry, move on, even if it's not your fault. Miss Jess, what would be your one thing you'd like to bestow to this younger generation? What do you wish you knew earlier in your career?
I think one of the biggest things that I did from the beginning, I still struggle with even today, is understanding, especially from a mortgage standpoint, is that you're not going to be able to close every loan, and you're not always going to have the answer to everyone's questions. But you got to know when to let a loan go and to move on and go get more loans down the road, and then also just surrounding yourself with people that are much smarter than you are. You hear it all the time, and it is true. And I have strived and pride myself in doing that my entire career. So that's why I have your next one, Thomas.
Thomas, with that set up, what do you need to tell your peers? You've obviously had a lot of success early and done amazing things. I've been impressed with what you've done. So you get to tell, quote unquote, earlier in your career, wasn't that long ago, but tell me, what do you recommend that you found your secret sauce so far?
Sure. If I could rewind time, I'd go all in on NVIDIA first and foremost. Bitcoin, something like that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think early on, what I didn't realize is how much of a contact sport our industry is. I'm very much a systems and processes guy as well. Conversion ratios, let's tweak the script, let's make a better customer experience. And all of that is super important. But if you don't feed the funnel from the top, none of those things matter. So the number one thing you can do before anything else is talk to as many people every single day about mortgage and real estate that you can.
Yep. It's contact sport, right? The more people you contact, the better. So feed the funnel is what I'm writing down. So I am typing, guys. I promise I'm not answering emails, but I am taking notes. All right, let's go with the next one. Thomas, we're going to snake this one. We're going to go back the way we started. So, or opposite of what we just started. So Thomas, you're up. Tell me this, as far as Gen Zers, what do we need to do from a technical standpoint that you guys do in the mortgage side? So I know there's some that Alex will speak to, obviously, but do you have anything on your side that you think you do a little different than I do, being the old dog here?
Sure. So, social media is important. We're going to get to that. Alex is going to touch on that for sure. I would say the most important thing for my peers is literally everything you send them needs to be mobile friendly. The amount of people that I know that the only laptop they own or computer they own is a work laptop. Like they don't even have a personal computer because that's not front of mind. So whether it's your quoting, your application, your document requests, your signatures, anything like that, as much of it that you can make mobile friendly as possible, the more success that you'll have with younger clientele.
I think that is freaking huge. So I'm going to repeat that because I think that is a fantastic tactic. If you're listening, before you send out a marketing piece, before you do anything, send it to yourself and see what it looks like on mobile. I tell my team for the same reason, don't have your signature be just one big image, because sometimes that won't show up and on your signature. So from a mobile standpoint, I think that is so big and so
I'll
important.
add to that. Well, I've had a lot of success with younger realtors as well. And I think one of the biggest things is every marketing piece, I test it within not just mobile, but within iMessage. So iMessage itself will display things differently than a normal text message, than an email. And if it looks pretty in iMessage, you will get more responses from it.
So for the, I don't know how many are on here, the probably, I think there's 3,000 people joining us today. So for the 3,000 listeners out there, I will cue you, because I know you're probably, some of you doing emails and all that, listening with half an ear. I think that is big. I'm highlighting that on my own notes in red to make sure my team is doing iMessages. I don't know that we go to that extent, so that is awesome. Jess, that's a hard act to follow. What about you? What do you do to hit the younger generations? And their team, so technically she could say ditto and get away with it. But what's your opinion?
I mean, I actually asked the younger generation this question when we were looking at these. I mean, that's it exactly, is making sure what you're sending out actually applies. I will admit a lot of how I communicate with realtors that I've worked with for 10 plus years. I communicate quite a bit differently than they more sometimes like the phone calls. They like more the hand touch than just a lot of the Gen Z that I've seen. They don't necessarily always want the phone call. They want quick text. They want to be informed, but they don't necessarily always want to talk to you.
I think, guys, a good rule of thumb is respond the way they reach out. If they reach out via text, you respond via text. If they call you, call them back. And so, Jess, I agree with you. And I hate texting. I do it anyway, but I don't love it. But yes, that's the beef I have. Mr. Alex, this question was probably made for you. What can a mortgage lender do to leverage technology to engage and attract Gen Z homebuyers more effectively, buddy?
You got to go where your audience is hanging out. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, these platforms that that Gen Z are hanging out in, you have to be present on those. And there's a way for us millennials, there's a way for Gen Xers, there's a way for even the boomers to be present on these platforms. You just need to know who you're talking to and where they're hanging out, what they're going to find valuable from you. You know, I think Mark, you've had a lot of experience and a lot of success as a Gen Xer, you know, dancing on wearing Santa Claus costumes out in your patio and closing a loan from it. There's literally a comment that it says, "Let's contact this guy," and he ended up closing the loan. So very proud of you on that one. But that's not the norm, right? That fits you perfectly because that's who you are. Now, if I'm somebody who's like, you know, suit and tie, stuck up, and then dressed dancing like that, that's not authentic. And so there's ways to show up on these platforms. There's ways to, you know, be present and be impactful on these platforms, even if you are older than these Gen Zers. And you just got to figure out, what can I do that's going to provide this audience value in this platform?
Yep. So I think sorry to interrupt you, but like fish in the stocked pond, right? If you're going whale fishing, you know, if you're going to go fishing for whales, you're not going to go to a pond, you're going to go to the ocean, right? So if you want the Gen Zers, you want to connect with them, go where they are. Social media, that is huge. All right, so let's go. Now we'll go to Miss Jess. I don't know that I have a good personal answer for this one myself, but from terms of innovative marketing strategies, so marketing beyond just the normal stuff, have you done anything that has been, you know, effective and proven to reach that younger generation?
You know, Instagram, obviously, branding videos, a day in the life of. Thomas has actually done a much better job at this than myself, so I may just turn that one to him. But just speaking to them, letting them see into what you do on an everyday basis, I think just helps you connect directly with them. I'm
going to take that and say authentic. Is that, I mean, to show I haven't done the day in the life of, at least not to my knowledge. Maybe I've done it and I've forgotten, but I do like that idea. It's be you, be real, to connect. So Thomas, I think last year you did 365 days in a row of doing a video every day. Was that right? Is that last year?
I did. Yeah. So that was 2023's New Year's resolution. I didn't miss a day. So that was a reel on Instagram, a TikTok video. It was all the same, cross-posted. And then occasionally, if they fit my Facebook audience, I'd send it there, but I don't do quite as much business through Facebook. Yeah, just be authentic is a huge thing. Our generation will sit and watch like what you would maybe consider mundane videos because we're just interested in other people's daily lives. Like there's a trend right now on TikTok where it's my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. And it's people my age, young professionals, and they'll literally just show themselves like cooking dinner and throwing on Game of Thrones and hanging out. And regardless of what their end goal is in promotion, whether they're selling merch or they're in real estate or wherever, it's just interesting to see how other people live their lives, whether it's similar to you, whether it's not. So what Jessica alluded to, I did actually one of my most successful videos last year was a day in the life video. So I filmed pretty much my entire day, and it was a very time consuming act to film all of it. From the second I woke up at 5 a.m. through the second my head went down on the pillow at 10 p.m. or so. They saw my workout. They saw me making breakfast, me feeding my dog, the closings I had that day, the calls I was making, and yeah, tons of engagement, and people are just interested in that stuff. So
Thomas, I got a question for you. Follow up real quick. Would you recommend an old guy like me doing the one post a day? Did you see, is this a magic pill? Did you actually see an increase in your activity, your following? And most importantly, did you get any business out of it? I mean, it's all fun and games to sit there and post, but did you actually see an increase in your, whether it be meeting new realtors, converting clients? Give me a quick little, was that a magic pill?
I can't answer that quickly, Mark.
Because it is, because you don't want to tell me. I get it.
I did generate business from it. It expanded my business greatly. So last year, for context, my first 2 years in the industry, it was an LOA. I also did my own origination. I wasn't great at generating. Last year, I started 100% my own origination, and it kind of exploded my business, and it's continued to grow through this year. I won't say that spamming posts is going to increase your business or increase your social presence at all. You could post 10 times a day and you may not grow that much. Just like anything else, it's incremental improvement from that posting that's going to work. If you look at my first post on January 1st versus how nice and great that it looked and more effective I was at engaging my audience on the 31st of December, it's a world of difference. You wouldn't even recognize it. I actually was speaking to an agent the other day, and probably most people that are on Instagram are following her that are on this call because she's one of the #1 real estate agents in the state. And she said that if you would look at her first video she posted 3 years ago, you wouldn't believe that it was the same person, the same account. And all of that is from the incremental improvement. And that's what's going to increase your business and increase the engagement on there.
So, Alex,
so don't just post mindlessly.
I love it. And I think that's so important. Alex, you can confirm even with a head nod. So what I want to hear more is kind of go back to the original question, but you can agree your first video compared to now is night and day difference. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. You would be like, what is this guy doing selling services, making videos for clients? But you had to start somewhere, and that was my big problem was I wasn't promoting myself. And so I started throwing out content about 3 years ago. Same thing, exact same thing.
Yeah. So what I want you to speak to is the expert here on the social media and all that. So Thomas mentioned that I've not heard that, the 9 to 5 versus the 5 to 9. Speak to me about the Gen Z. How much time do they spend online? What's their attention span? Because the question was, using innovative marketing strategies, which obviously your now is going to be the social media and just digital media in general, to reach these guys. Hit me with who we need to know, who are we trying to hit with these innovative marketing strategies. You are that strategy, or your services are to put it on digital. Who is the Gen Zer?
Gen Zer, for me, what I've seen, they're looking for role models. They're looking for people they can look up to. They're looking for that mundane, but it goes a little deeper than that because they're looking to something they can relate to. They want to see the future. They want to see what they're going to be like in the future, or what they don't want to be like in the future, right? Something that's worked really well for me in my business, and this can translate really well to Gen X loan officers that are on this call, is I've gone all in on long form on YouTube because I've heard from way too many Gen Zers that exactly what Thomas is saying. I love the mundane. I love the boring. I want to see someone just working on their business. So I've already released 2 episodes of my vlog. It's literally my intern following me around all day, 15-minute long videos. They're getting more views, more engagement than I've ever gotten before on anything. I'm getting feedback and commentary from video production company owners, freelancers who are Gen Zers saying dude, it's so cool seeing you build your business. It's so inspiring, blah, blah, blah. And that's something that I'm going all in on is vlogging, is just documenting my day, documenting my week, whatever it is, and posting that content on YouTube and then disseminating all that content all over social media.
That's freaking awesome.
That's been a big strat. That's been a big tactic that's proving successful in reaching people who are younger than me.
So hit real quick. So I love the 15-minute long form. I highlighted that. So again, for those that are doing their emails, not paying attention, listen up. I think this is a magic pill number 2 that I'm writing down. The long form YouTube. I don't do that. I used to. And then I was told to keep the dang things under 60 seconds, which is annoying and terrible. But all that to say, the 15-minute long form. So Alex, when you make these videos, you know, I've asked this question to you 100 times every time we're presenting.
Mhm.
Who am I talking to? Like, what do I do, and how are you addressing that? And you know, how do I talk to somebody? Because the role model piece was the other part I highlighted. They're looking for role models. So who am I talking to, and how do I position that? And what are you doing?
Yeah, so for me, for my vlog, I'm documenting the building of a 7-figure video production business over 18 months. Like that's my thing. Over between now and the end of next year, we're going to be at 7 figures, and I'm documenting my journey on how I'm going to get there. Right. So I am making these videos for this kid named Cole. He's 23 years old. He's in Utah. This is a real person. I connected with him about a year ago, and I give him about 2 hours every month where we just go on a Zoom call, and he just asks me all the different questions, like where did you mess up, and what is all that kind of stuff. So I'm an open book to him, and he's awesome. He's really reinvigorated my passion for what I do. I make my vlog just for him. Like I only want him to watch that. I want him to get inspired by it. I want him to be motivated enough to say, this is awesome. I'm learning so much. I'm going to implement one thing from this video into my life today. That's how specific I've gotten on who I make content for. And that's where when with people that I work with, and Mark, you can attest to this, is I highly recommend starting with who you're making content for, because if you're very clear on who you're making content for, everything else figures itself out, right? So for me, like I said, it's me 10 years ago. It's a kid who's just getting his business started and wants to learn more.
So guys, I want to just reinforce that because it is powerful and it's really helped me. I can do everything. We've talked about this, Alex and I've talked about this. There's like 7 steps to social media, right? There's the planning, the strategy behind it. Let's call it step 1. Step 2 is then actually creating the video. Step 3 is doing the editing. Step 4 is to do the posting, all that stuff, right? Then the engagement, the follow-up. I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't get over I pushed the button of post. I can do all the other stuff. I don't mind dancing around like an idiot. It just was weird. And then Alex basically said, just make a video for me. And Alex will do that too. He'll make daily videos where he's like, I only make this for Mark Pfeiffer. Now, the reality is he's sharing it to the world. But if you just take the approach of when you make your content, you're doing it for one person, you'll talk differently to the Cole. Is that what you said his name was, Alex? Cole. I'm going to talk different to Cole than I'm going to talk to somebody I'm doing a loan for that's 10 years my senior and is a retired doctor, right? So you need to do all of them, but not at the same time. So I just think that's really powerful. So they're looking for the role model. In my mind, I'm going to steal Cole. I don't know the guy, but I'm going to go ahead and start using that as my little avatar, that when I make Gen Z videos, I'm going for that kid.
And really quickly, hand raise here. In terms of what you just said about who you're making content for and the audience, that's someone who's really figured it out. That's really big in the world is Ray Dalio, the very famous billionaire investor. He's done a great job of being on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, talking to millennials, Gen Zers, the way younger generation. If you go I love following him on social media because his whole thing is, I'm going to educate the younger generations on the things that I learned in investing, the things that I did incorrectly, and how you can do better than me. And so it's like he's like the grandfather just pulling out his book and like talking to his grandkids. That's what it feels like. And he's somebody who isn't, trying to be all trendy and trying to do all these like trendy things to keep up with the times. He knows who he is and he knows who he's talking to, which is why when he posted the picture of his selfie at the Taylor Swift concert of trying to be like a millennial Gen Zer, it was the greatest post of all time because like the photo's super blurry, like he's off frame. It was the funniest. It's like one of the best posts ever on social media. But it goes to show when you know your place in these social platforms, you can do really, really great things. Like he's blown up. He's got millions of followers on social media, and he's become very well known to Gen Zers and millennials alike because he's been able to talk to them. So that's
Ray Dalio has a big old Bible of a book. I mean, it's fat, called Principles. And if you download the app, it's in there and it's got like daily leadership things. So I will say, just as a leadership piece, it's free. You get Principles. And I think they even give you the book inside of it, which makes me feel like a sucker for paying what I did for it. All right, Miss Jess, tell me something. This doesn't have to be exactly for Gen Zers. I know you are really, really good at what you do. And I want to say we have different styles, you and me, I imagine. I've not done a loan with you, but I know about you and what you've told me. I'm sure you're really good. What do you do to help communicate? And do you do anything different for the Gen Zers versus, the Gen Xers or boomers? Like, do you do anything different when you got a 26-year-old applying for a mortgage with you versus the 56-year-old? Like, what do you do different, if anything? And I know I'm kind of setting you up and go a little off course in the next question, but is there anything in particular you do different?
I think it all starts with the very first conversation. Just depending on, I start every conversation the same and kind of get a good feel for each individual borrower. Because I feel like I can take Thomas being a Gen Z, for example, and say that his financial education level is much farther advanced than a lot of others. So you can't ever just assume that they're going to want to automatically be handheld through a first-time homebuyer process, but a lot of them do. So just figuring out where they kind of stand in general in their knowledge of the home buying process, just with a few basic questions on the front end, and then take it from there. Because I want it to be a customized experience to them, regardless of, Gen Z or not.
So how much time do you spend on the initial consultation? Because again, you and I have done volume. We kind of joked our COVID volume was insane. So I'm not asking for the COVID answer, because that's probably just, name, birthday, and move on and next one. But in a normal environment, or an environment like this, how much time do you spend on the initial conversation, and how much do you spend on the actual consultation? So two-part question, right? Like, what do you do for the upfront? How much do you spend time with? And then once they have everything from them, what does that look like for you and your business?
So initial phone conversation is typically 3 to 5 minutes. Basically just getting to know where they are in the process, understanding kind of their financial goals for the future. Are we looking at, whether it's down payment that we're worried about? Are we worried more about monthly payment? And then kind of just talk them through what the next steps look like. Once we get that application, then it's just going back to them. And I like to show multiple price points and help them really understand how it's going to impact from a monthly payment standpoint, and just all in from a down payment piece. So
guys, it's hard to interrupt as we go through this, because I'm going to start asking questions that are a little off course, because I want to know how Thomas and Jessica work. This is the advantage I have for being the moderator. If you guys have questions, you can throw them in the chat. I will start paying attention to that as well. So the Q&A session.
Have one question so far, and this is about the last discussion from a few minutes ago. What does long form YouTube mean exactly?
Got it. All right, Alex, we'll back the truck up just for a minute. Alex, and I now have that question Q&A answer. So Cassie, thank you for asking. My fault for glazing it. Alex, what's your definition of long form?
Yeah, Thomas, I'm very curious to hear what your definition is too, but my definition is anything over a minute long. Anything over 60 seconds is considered long. That's a very different answer from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but we're at the point now, especially with content, where it's either 20 seconds or it's 60 seconds to an hour, right? Anything that there's a lot of dead man, no man's zone, where it's 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Unless you're telling a story, you can go for a minute. But
what's normal? What's normal, Alex? What in a typical? So I understand what you just said is the answer, but when you see it, what's your expert opinion as far as what a long form be? Because I'm not going to watch something that's an hour, but what's your opinion?
Yeah. Unless you're watching Joe Rogan for 4 hours, right? No, I 10 minutes on it is the more, is long. Because we're at a point now, like I said, where it's either quick and short bites, or you're going to stick with somebody for a while. But a long form YouTube video is typically going to be horizontal like this, not vertical. It's friendly for both desktop and mobile. It's meant to have someone stick with you for a long time.
Any editing? Is it more raw, or is there editing involved?
It's all over the place. Obviously for me with my stuff, I do a lot of editing, and even still, I keep it pretty raw. My vlog is shot on my phone. I hardly use the nice cameras. But there's also vlogs where it's just maybe 3 different shots with a phone, and it's 10 minutes long, 8 minutes long, very basic or no captions.
Thomas, are you doing long form, Thomas?
No, it's on the docket. So
good.
I'll
beat you to it. I'll do it tomorrow.
Pondering, and I have a meeting next week to film some with an agent. Here's the benefit. So we'll go to definition. I would say anything over 90 seconds, just because 90 seconds is the max you can post on Instagram Reel. Last I checked. Now, what's ideal for short form varies all the time. The algorithm constantly wants you to change. It's either half a second video for a week there, and then and longer. So it just depends. I would say long form, ideally at least 5 minutes, because if it's shorter than that, I know I would worry that if I'm clicking on it for answer to my question or to get more knowledgeable about something, there's not going to be enough meat there if it's less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes might imply that somebody can't condense it good enough into 60. So it may be rambling at 3 minutes versus 5 is going to be more meat and potatoes.
Exactly. Yeah. So 5 to 15. So the beauty of of the long form, and why I want to transition to doing more of that is because it also automatically creates your short form content for you. In a 15-minute YouTube video, there are 15 60-second clips in there. Now, they may not all be usable, but there are some, right? So it's extremely time efficient to film one longer form video and then take the pieces out. And I'm sure, Alex, you're doing this to direct back to your vlogs, right? Is you're creating shorts from the vlog, and like, hey, if you want to watch the rest of this, it's over here. It's kind of like a little teaser, right, for them to get in the rest of your ecosystem.
Absolutely. I have it right here written out, where one vlog I can turn into about 65 pieces of content on social media.
Yeah. So guys, I would also say, so this is, again, if you're doing your email, pay attention real quick. And I'm going to take some credit for this one. So my old videos when we started, and if you go look at Mortgage Mark and you go find it back in the day, man, they are weird and awkward as far as what they are, but they're all long form videos. I was long form before long form was long form, just because I didn't know people like 60 seconds. But the point is, I agree with 5 to 10 minutes. But if you haven't done this, guys, create the milestone updates in long form. What does it mean to be underwriting approved? What does it mean to order the appraisal? What's that look like? Like, we have those, and those air quote long forms are the links we send in the milestones to our clients. So yes, it's the 10, 15 years ago mark, but not a lot has changed. There's some. But the long form is so huge, not just from the short, but it can help you just your day-to-day process. Because how often do you talk to somebody while they're in the middle of the car, picking the kids up from school, and you didn't get to go over the whole process of what to expect? Make that your long form content. You don't have to think about it. You know this, you're in the mortgage business. So I think that's huge. So Jess, now going back to you. And again, I am watching the Q&A. So for future, if you guys want to ask questions, we'll answer them in real time. We're not planning on doing a Q&A at the end. We certainly will do it, but most of these questions I'd like to be real time. So Jess, going back to you, I'm surprised to hear that your first call, your first conversation is just enough, maybe little fact finding, but mostly it's to set the appointment to get the loan app and get the paperwork in and do then the consultation. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
That's correct. Yeah.
So on your consultation, ballpark, how long does this take? Is it you, or do you have somebody with you? And again, guys, I understand we're kind of deviating a little, but I'm assuming it's the same, but you might do it different for Gen Zers. But your consultation, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, what do you spend with somebody?
Just like after we get the application in?
Application's in, you got my 1003, I'm coming to your office, or I'm doing it. Well, let me ask this. Do you do it on Zoom, phone, office? Which one do you do?
We do typically on phone.
Okay, we do too. I'd like to have my team move to Zoom. I'm not going to pretend we do that, guys, but that's certainly something I'm trying to encourage my team to say, at least get some eyeballs together and you can share screen. So I too am phone. Thomas, with a head nod, are you phone as well?
Yeah, I am mostly phone. So my initial consultation and my process is a little different with my clients.
Yeah, we'll come to yours. We'll come to yours real quick. Let's finish Jess before we get too far into yours.
Right. Yeah. Occasionally Zoom. Depends on the client.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was a vast difference between, like, you're all Zoom. So Jess, 45 minutes, a lot more homebuyer education, I'm assuming, on the Gen Zers. Is there anything different where that script takes you?
With the Gen Z, no. We have, one of our products we have with some first-time home buyers, it allows for more of a grant versus some of the bond programs. And so we'll talk through various options. I'll be just very straightforward and honest with this answer. It's one of the advantages I have partnering with, again, Thomas, being Gen Z. A lot of times I do lean on him for those resources, with some of those because of the nuances. And so that's where we really work together as a team. To take care of a lot of those clients with those needs.
Cool. Love it. And it's also fun to have a little product that's going to be different than most of the market, to have something to talk about. Whether they use it or not, it's just fun to get your foot in the door. So Thomas, your initial phone call, the initial hello, how long is that?
14 minutes. Exactly.
14 minutes. Yeah. I was going to say my answer is 15. It can run to 20, but I'm trying to get in there, establish rapport. And now admittedly, I have a team that helps me do a lot of dirty work. So that is kind of my time to shine and become very likable and establish some dominance. So that's why I'm a 15 to 20 minute guy. So Thomas, after that piece is done, your consultation, you said you do some Zoom. How much of your business is Gen Zers, do you think? Your people, whether plus or minus age, doesn't matter, but your generation, how many folks are you doing loans? Like, what percentage of your business?
At least 60, if not 70% are first-time home buyers from 22 to 28.
Okay, so again, you are the authority. So listen up, guys. So what are you doing?
So, I guess the first contact happens even before that, is setting the initial consultation, right? If you send a Gen Z person an email, you could be waiting a while for them to respond to it, because who knows when they're checking their email again, especially their personal email. Like I said, they've only got a work laptop. They'll check that email, but if you're getting a personal email from them, it's going to be a while for them to look at it. So the initial consult is 99% of the time scheduled over a group message with whoever referred that person, generally a real estate agent, in there with the client, so they can see the communication is happening as well. And that it holds both sides accountable, right?
I hate that answer because I know it's right and I don't want to do it, but that's a very valid
answer.
You
got to get comfortable texting. That's a major
I got to
key.
text more.
Here's some context to it. And I'm probably about as young as you can be, where you still had a home phone when you were growing up and you had to call your friend's house and talk to their parents real quick to see if you could hang out. And anyone younger than me did not have that experience. So they are not comfortable speaking over the phone to start with. Like they grew up texting. Their parents texted each other to schedule play dates. And so they didn't ever break that, nervousness barrier. So it's still, they get nervous on the phone and they want to speak through text.
Damn. Great answer. That sucks. I'm sitting here just kind of upset about it, but that's the reality. So it is what it is. It's either adapt or don't, guys. Like here's the thing to you listening. You don't have to do this. The question is, do you want to be better and target that market as they grow up and do more and more business? So that's your choice to make. And I will adopt a little. I'll bend. I won't go all that direction, but I'll at least incorporate some of that piece. So, all right, Thomas. So when moving on to the next, kind of the next phase of that. So when you guys are talking loan products, loan programs, feel free if you want. Here's a plug for you in Origin Bank. If you guys have those programs that you guys may not otherwise, but what programs do you think? I'm going to throw out the easy and obvious ones, like the normal, Seth, T-Shack, all that stuff. Like how much do you promote that? Or does a Gen Z, am I just being assumptive and the Gen Z doesn't need it? Thomas, you can go first.
They do. I do probably a bond deal a month for DPA. They're definitely interested in that. Well, you got to realize a lot with my generation, if they've moved out of home, they've dealt with wage stagnation and increased rent, which means the savings are probably not there to where maybe the last generation had at that same age. So that cash to close is usually the hardest piece. They've got a good salary. They can afford the monthly payment because they're a young professional. It's saving the money to actually be able to close. So any product with, assistance on the cash to close side, especially with this NAR ruling, is going to help. We've got a really good through Fannie Mae Home Ready First, if you have access to it. We get up to $8,500 for them cash to close. It's a grant. I kind of tell them like, hey, it's like your parents giving you money. They're not asking for it back. Like the second you sign, that's yours. It's kind of how I get it across to them. But yeah, that is kind of the big piece that I push a lot of the time, because I know that's what, they think they don't have enough.
Jess, you can pass since you guys are a team and work on the same, but is there something Thomas forgot or you want to add to it, or are you good with his answer?
No, I'm great with his answer. So.
Cool. Alex, I do want this question. So products and programs, bond programs, and Seth, T-Shack, and TDHCA, and all this, the grants, that doesn't mean squat to you. I know that. That's
I could do a whole separate webinar about that. Let's go.
Yeah, so that's alphabet soup. So tell me this, how much do I need to be, because this is where I'm trying to change if you start following me on social, I'm starting to do my own stories, which I don't like doing, but I think I'm like 2 out of the last 3 days. So at least I'm trying to be like Thomas when I grow up. Alex, how much of, in today's world, a balanced social media platform, how much needs to be mortgage programs, T-Shack, Seth, and all the stuff that makes me sound smart like I know what I'm doing? And then how much needs to be me showing what I'm having for breakfast and showing my buff bod when I'm done working out? Like how much personal and how much works? I need to be the professional mortgage guy, but it's stuff people don't care about.
If you're just getting started, I think 50-50 is appropriate. I think that's a great place to start, because everyone's different and you're going to figure out very quickly what people find interesting, what people don't find interesting, and you'll adjust accordingly. That's what if you're just getting going, for me, I'm seasonal, right? So in the summer, I'm posting a lot more about like family and stuff like that, because we're together a lot more. Now that the kids are going to be back in school, I'm going to start shifting a lot more, doing more professional stuff. And then when the holidays come back, it'll be more, again, like, shifting back. So my stuff is very seasonal. It changes a lot because that's what works for me. And just to be
clear, seasonal in life. right? So what about seasonal in business? So like we as the mortgage industry, I mean, rates dictate a lot of that too, but in the summer, school's out, people are buying, and it's our busy time versus maybe Christmas time or holiday time, not as much. So how much, when it's seasonality, do we stick with your seasonality of life, or do we post on the seasonality of our business? The answer probably depends on who you are and what you want, but
something that I've seen work really well, especially with realtors and loan officers, is being ahead of the seasons as much as you can. Like, start talking about the fall and winter now. Start planting those seeds now. When you're in the winter, start talking about the summer. Start bringing up spring and summer and get ahead of the curve there, because then what that does is it gets you top of mind to people when that need actually comes. I've seen that happen firsthand with clients where, we start talking about, potential about, like, for example, the rates coming down. There were some clients that we were talking about that stuff in March, April, May, June, when they weren't really coming down. And now that they are, now that loan officer that's been talking about the rates going down, they're getting hit up by all the realtor friends being like, yeah, you've been posting about it for 4 months. It's finally happening. It's finally here. So that top of mind and staying ahead of those seasons, I think, would benefit real estate mortgage industry a lot.
So next question for you, Alex. We're going to shift and go, Alex, and we'll go back the other direction. What do you think some of the challenges you have or we would have actually connecting with the Gen Zers? So I'm willing to make a jerk of myself and put myself on social, do my dumb videos and all that other stuff. And I say that because that's how I feel. And I want you guys to understand, if you look at my social, like, oh, it's pretty good. Yeah, I also have help, and I listen to people like Alex. I pay Alex. I listen to him, but I don't feel good. But thank you guys for the kind words earlier. So my point is, everybody's going to have that little voice telling you one thing. The reality is just do it, because over time you will get better. But Alex, what are going to be some of my challenges, and maybe my efforts there, but I'm not connecting with the younger generation? What do I need to do different in your line of work?
Oof, that's a loaded question.
I know, because it's so many places. Pick one good one.
Yeah, because it sucks getting that feeling of like, no one's seeing my stuff, but the reality is someone's watching. Right? Just because the vanity metrics being like views and likes, that's what we all chase. That's what we all crave, right? That's what social media does to us. Those don't matter at all, because someone is always watching. Someone is, and you just don't know who it is. And maybe you haven't said something impactful enough for that person to act. And so that's why I'm going to focus this on staying consistent. These platforms and Gen Zers especially love consistency, because if you just drop off the face of the earth for 3 months, you're going to lose all goodwill and all trust. Not to mention that these platforms won't reward you for being inconsistent. And so sticking to it, staying consistent, that's the hardest part, but it's the part that brings a lot of rewards, because like I said, you never know who's watching on these social platforms. You never know who's silently watching and hasn't commented yet or hasn't reached out yet.
So Thomas, you did 365 days in a row. That's consistency at its finest. As you mentioned, you saw an improvement in activity engagement. What would you do different for, if I said right now I'm going to start doing 365 days, and what I'm going to have some challenges? What did you learn in that 365 where you started doing things different?
Ooh, that's a great question. I didn't have enough of a balance of the personal stuff to start with, and I also didn't speak as much in layman's terms. It was way too guideline heavy to start, for sure. And people buying homes don't care about that. Now, that's not to say that, again, that those videos weren't effective. Like Alex said, someone is watching. What I tell a lot of my agent partners that are wanting to get started on social is just start posting and posting consistently, because the vast majority of your following or people seeing it are not watching the entire video to begin with. But what they're doing is they're scrolling past it, and their mind puts like another little file in the folder of, oh, there's Thomas posting about mortgages again. There's Thomas posting about mortgages again. And then the second the word mortgage comes up, who do they think of first? And it's Thomas. And it's not because they watched the videos. It's just because they saw that I was active posting about them.
To speak to that, I was once part of back in the day CTX, and I was in the office with some of the biggest producers in the country, and we were spending 30 minutes him and Han about what to send out for our marketing stuff. Big guy walks in and he sits there for about 3 minutes. He stands up and shuts the meeting down. He goes, I don't care if we send a bag of dog poop on fire to their house, as long as it has my name on it and they hear mortgage. He goes, that's all I care about. I just need them to think about me for half a second. It doesn't matter what you do. It just matters that you do it. And that's right. to reaffirm it. I've never forgot that. And as far as Sandy Smith, it is cameras or phones. I'm assuming everything we're talking about, Thomas, is phone, correct?
Yes, I don't have a professional camera. I just use my iPhone. I've got one tool that allows me to stabilize it if I'm walking around. But otherwise,
What tool
it's
is
just,
that? What tool?
it's
If
called
you,
a gimbal,
what
Gimbal.
brand? What
I
brand?
have a DJI gimbal. It's about
Okay.
$100 on Amazon. It's what I recommend all my realtor partners as well. Great giveaway if you're looking for a giveaway for an event that has anything to do with social.
We just gave away
Jason
3
in
of
the
them.
chat, DJI as well. Yeah, exactly. They love it. Everyone in the industry that's moving around a house filming or something needs one. Ideally, if they're using their phone. So, yeah,
And
that's about
DJI
it.
guys, real quick, Alex and I bought one many moons ago, and Alex and I can't figure the darn thing out. And it's not a DJI. It's a weird Chinese one, and the app is even like really goofy. So I'd recommend get a DJI if you're getting a gimbal. They act as little tripods. They're super smooth. Again, great gift. And if you want, find a realtor that's probably using one. And Alex, I'll make the plug for you. I like, and I'm sure he'll agree with me because this is his job, but I think there's a fun, like anything else with the content, whether it's personal or professional, the same with phone versus overproduced versus underproduced. I think you need a combination so it doesn't look stale. The second I started publishing stuff that Alex shot on his cameras, so to answer the question, because I think it was Sandy that said, which one, phone or camera? Both, I think is a good answer. Certainly you will see a big quality jump if you have somebody like Alex come in and professionally produce it for you. And the comments I did get were a lot. So Miss Jess, coming back to finish out this question, and the question was, just to remind folks and even myself, what are the common challenges to that you make with Gen Z and trying to reach them? So Jess, I'm going to turn it to more marketing for you and me. What are the challenges you and I are going to have as far as getting to the Gen Zers? Like, what do we need to do? Like, what if I said right now you can do nothing but Gen Z loans? What would you do right now that would help your Gen Z business increase?
I mean, I would say I'll admit, number one, I struggled a lot with social media. I tend to, mine is very personal oriented. It says mortgage and my name on it pretty much, but that's about it. So if there was one thing I could do to start targeting that market more, would be actually going to Instagram, and to, at least to Instagram at a minimum, and start focusing on, because I do have plenty of contacts in that sphere of whether it's teachers that have taught my kids at school. And you just got to think about your total sphere of what that includes. And even if it's their children, you still got to learn to connect with them and start following them, and give them the content that they need to hopefully think of you when they think of buying a home.
Yeah, guys, I love that. And I think the other thing is kind of like, I forget which one of you said it. I think it was Alex, but go where the business is, right? Go where the pond is stocked. I will say this too. If you told me right now, the only loans I could do are for 27-year-olds and younger, 2 things I'm going to do is call on realtors that are 27 years old and younger. That's one, right? Because birds of a feather flock together. And number 2, I'll then call my past database and people I know, both clients, professional network, and whatever, friends, family, who are 55 and older, 50 and older, because they probably have kids or know people with kids. And I would just change the verbiage of my marketing to go heavy, heavy, heavy. We are the low down payment lender. We are the Gen Z lender. It's your marketing messaging, guys. It doesn't have to be anything different. You market to your same database, but go get their kids. I mean, so the point is, you get what you ask for, right? If you're like, oh, I'm really proud of myself because I can do these hard bond loans, good for you. You're going to do a lot of them because you're asking for it. If you're like, I only do the jumbo stated income, you're probably going to get a lot of them. So I think the answer is, how do you find them? You got to go looking for them. It's not by accident. You got to be intentional with your actions and what you're doing. That's my 2 cents. Some of the common challenges, guys, that I didn't hear that earlier. I'm just kind of looking at the question here in some of my notes. Thomas, how much trouble do you have with the parents who think they know it all and come in and, is that a thing with Gen Zers?
Sure. Yeah. My most common type of lost loan is, the pricing battle starts. They talk to the second lender when they happen to mention to their parents that they're buying a home, and the parent says, wait, I want you to talk to my guy. So that's where my pricing exceptions comes in, is when that conversation starts, right? Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I would understand. I bought a home before I was in mortgage, and I talked to my parents about it as well. So I don't think it's something that you can overcome. I think if you're older than myself, you probably have an advantage here, especially if you started by marketing to their parents first.
Yeah, and I will say this, guys, if somebody calls Thomas and me both, and let's pretend I don't know Thomas, but I do know, or maybe I hear his name and we're not buds, I will absolutely play that I'm the seasoned veteran in the pro. I know what I'm doing. I'm basically their parents. I will start acting a little older, a little wiser, and I will try to diffuse that. Jess, what do you do when you hear that there may be a young person and there's a hint that there may be an outside influence coming in? Do you do anything different, or would you have a script for that?
Again, it goes on a case by case basis, but no, I will mention I've been in the industry for years. I've worked at several wonderful banks, and just try to speak to like, we are already shopping for you. We are already doing that, and hopefully kind of taking that out of their head of thinking, well, they're only going to need one set of numbers. They're only talking to one investor, and actually opening up their eyes to know we're actually talking to numerous ones to hopefully prevent them from making their own phone calls and going other places, or being able to have the educated conversation with their parents that know she's already working on it. And
yeah, elevate yourself, elevate your company, the reputation of a bank. That certainly helps, right? So use that to your advantage, guys. My script is this. I once got a loan, so I'll give you two stories in one. I got a loan because I did a video after I hung up, and I addressed the wife who is not on the phone call. It was $1.5 million loan amount or something like that. It was a big loan, $2 million loan. Hey, Joe, here's what we just talked about. Truthfully, I was just lazy and didn't want to retype it all. So I did it, and I put the wife on there, and then he called me back. So we're going to use you over the other guy. I go, why? Because my wife thought you were cute. And she was happy. She was happy that you included her in the conversation, because I said, hi, Anna, never meeting her. So I think the thing, guys, that the big question I use with listening ears is who else is going to be part of this process? Because I've lost deals because I didn't include a spouse. But in this case with the Gen Zers, hey, man, what do your parents say? And it's hard to say it without sounding like a jerk. Like, you're a grown person, you can buy a house, but hey, man, what other opinions are you taking into consideration? Who's told? What have you heard? Because I want to say, how much do you put down? Why are you putting that down? Have you done any homework on that? Who's telling you to do that? What have you seen? Because all I need them to do is just introduce the word parents or my dad and my mom. Man, I'm so glad they're a part of this process. It's such a big deal. Why don't we do this? You and I can get some options put together, and do you want? I'll review them, and if I can't get the parents on the phone, I'll absolutely make sure they include enough to say, hey, forward this to your parents so they can see what we're doing. Because the more you can bring them as part of this process, the kid can then show, like, look what I've done. And I think that's huge. And that's not just parents and Gen Zers, but include everybody who's part of that process. All right, the next question, super hard. I don't have an answer for this. So I'm not sure if we have to or not. Alex, I don't know that you get. No, actually, Alex, we're going to go with you. We're going to give you the hard one because I don't have a mortgage answer for this. The question is, how do the social and environmental values of these young Gen Zers, because they're very much the different generation trying to do a lot of good things for the world, and I appreciate that about them. What do we as professionals, the three of us talking here, because I think three of us don't have anything we do special outside just saying I'm paperless. What do you recommend we do, or what should we do from a voice or a messaging that we should do to be more social and environmentally aware of what we're doing?
Can I punt this answer?
Yeah, go to Thomas. Thomas,
I'll take
what do you
it.
got?
I don't mind. I'll take it.
Go for it.
Here's what I think, and I understand why this question was written, but it was not written by someone in Gen Z that is Gen Z, because I think it's just like, Gen X is like those darn millennials. This is those darn Gen Zs. It's very much a vocal minority that are the woke, right? The green, the eco. That's not to say that in general we maybe have slightly different values, our generation does, for those topics, but I don't think the majority of us would be making these life decisions based on those values. That's not to say you couldn't niche down and be the woke lender or the green lender and target that, but I don't think that it's something that it's going to be so pervasive in the business that everyone needs an answer to it, or, to get around that objection.
And if you thought that was the case, my advice to somebody would be change your scripting and your messaging just a touch. So what I try to do is you sell the home, right? We don't sell the debt. I want to sell the idea of where you're putting your furniture, the big screen TV, the parties you're going to host, the holidays you're going to spend. Try to paint that tangible thing that's amazing, and then the debt just happens to be part of it. And I think the messaging too to connect to the relationship is, hey, Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the YOLO, you only live once, the traveling and all this other stuff. Hey, man, let's get a budget that, I know you said you want $3,000 a month. Hey, great news. This is $2,800. That gives you that extra dollars to make sure you can go out to eat with your wife and the margarita. But you said in your bio, Thomas, you guys are still the dinks, right? The dual income, no kids.
Right.
Like it,
Right.
like cater to that. And so change your messaging to where you're actually hitting what makes them excited. Hey man, I want to get you at 2,800. I know you said $3,000, but this gives you a few extra bucks for traveling. You guys can take a staycation, whatever it is. I think that's the part. I don't know that's environmental, obviously not. It's not necessarily social. And if you guys don't, maybe you do adopt I know there are mortgage companies that give away $50 of every closing to some charity. Pick one. I mean, if this is important to you, I don't know how you do it in the mortgage world, but if you pick a cause or something, get behind it, I think you can do that, but you got to be sincere. If I pick one, then I'll just be a big jerk, and it'll be obvious that I'm just doing it for marketing purposes. All right, so let's see, guys. I feel like we've done that one. Thomas, you're the young one, so I'll save you. No, I'm gonna have Alex go last. So, ladies first. Jessica, what trend do you foresee in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, man.
So I'm going to give you an A and a B. I want to hear your answer. What do you just think the trend's going to be in the next 5 or 10 years in general? And that's going to impact lenders and home buyers. And then I want you to then narrow it down to if there is a different trend for the Gen Zers. So what trends do you foresee in the next 5 or 10 years? And it's open. I don't care if you talk to market. I don't care if you talk to programs. I don't care what affordability. You go with whatever you want to talk about for the next 5 to 10 years. What's that going to look like?
Mark, you're gonna not like this answer. I'm going to punt to Thomas because we actually discussed this question. And so I'm just going to punt to him on that one.
Cool. It's a good punt. Thomas, you're there. Don't call fair catch. It'd be weird and awkward.
Yeah, what do I see? I mean, just more tech. It's just going to lean in heavy, and it's going to be pervasive to the initial consult, to the contacts, to the entire mortgage process needs to be highly, highly technical. I think that each lender that stays in this business, your volume is going to have to increase because we're going to get so efficient at closing loans that the big fish will continue to gather more and more of them and eat up the little ones. And by efficient at closing loans, I mean on the operations side, it's going to take so much less of our time that those that have the sales and the marketing and the scripting down are just going to continue to build up their market share.
I've always said if the tech gets so good that my comp gets reduced by a third because the tech does my job, I'll be so excited because it means I could probably do 4 times the business. Like exactly. I'll get a pay raise. The more you can just put me in front of people, I don't have to do all the monkey work. That'd be huge. So Alex, the reason why I left you last, the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think it's going to look like from an industry for mortgage or otherwise?
For the mortgage side, I can't really speak too much about that, but I think from the marketing side,
for mortgage people, what do you think that's going to look like?
I just think with the rise of AI and automating a lot of the content and marketing, I think we're going to see a massive side effect on how that's all being used, because I think we're going to start, and Gen Z especially, will start questioning a lot of what's real and what isn't, which is why it's so important to be on video and showing your face, showing your voice, showing your actual presence, and actually you showing up. That's going to be even more valuable over the next 5 to 10 years, building that personal brand. Because like I said, I think with AI coming in and all those, all that futuristic, a lot of it's nonsense, honestly. It's trying to replace people, and you're never going to be able to do that. And I think Gen Z is going to see a lot of the fakeness for what it is, and they're already starting to see it, which is why I think they're really attracted to vlogs and long form, and they're willing to spend 30 minutes, 1 hour with a stranger on YouTube, but it's at least a real person, right? So I think craving that's human connection.
Exactly why I put Alex last. And guys, the quick plug, because he's the non-mortgage person here. Like, again, if you need or want more help on that, he is the man to go to. And that is absolutely the right question. Be authentic, be you. Everything we said about the rules and guidelines, throw them out the window. Just do what you want to do, because there's enough people out there in the world that will gravitate to who you are versus who Thomas is versus who Jessica is. So with all that said, guys, I appreciate you three. Again, it's easy to talk to friends. Thank you all for listening. Mr. Steven, if you would, just take it away from here, please.
Great. Thank you, Mark and Thomas, Jessica and Alex, for taking the time to share your knowledge and experience with us. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you've learned more and enjoyed the presentation. TMBA continues to bring you great webinars like this one. Please check out the homepage at texasmba.org for upcoming webinars, and also a list of previous webinar recordings that we've just added. Thank you again, everyone, and that concludes our webinar.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Why? Does it automatically?